Welcome back, you guys, to Office of the Day with Mark Anthony. Today, I have a very special guest, and it's going to be a little bit of a longer of an intro than normal. So, I met Mr. Christopher Lewis, who's sitting next to me, Mr. Dating Intelligence, Mr. Um, a man who leads with honesty and integrity, and a man who leads with genuine curiosity and genuine kindness. And I think that's ultimately one of the most important factors of any human being and any individual to begin with. And this is how you get into different rooms to grow as an individual. We met at Podfest. I'm not even sure how many years it's been. It's probably been like 4 years now, 4 or 5 years. But this man, he truly cares about people, and you see it within his work. You see it within how he treats people and how he talks to people and how he ultimately moves. Mr. Christopher Lewis, go ahead and introduce yourself because nobody can do it better than you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the intro. That was great. Hey, guys, what's up?
So, we're going to dive into the value here in a second, but tell me a little bit about your background here with the people who may not know you specifically and know your podcast.
Well, first of all, Mark, I'm going to say thank you for having me on your show. And I have to tell your audience that he's right. When we met at Podfest about 4.5 years ago, I just saw this kid roaming the halls. It was my first Podfest as well. And, we're all new, and I'm just trying to soak up the fact that I just started a podcast probably 6 months before. And I was like, we go to these conferences to basically get more knowledge, right? So, so you're meeting people in the halls between every kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Every workshop or everybody's like seminar or focus or topic that they're talking about. And we're walking through the halls, and, you see people in some of the same rooms and stuff. And finally, our paths crossed, and I was like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, my name's Mark Anthony. And of course, when you hear a guy's name, Mark Anthony, it's always like, dude, is he thinking like the Roman, the Romans and and then basically the singer, right? So, but we started talking, and, and he was much younger than me because he is much younger than me, but I just felt like, who is this kid who's got his stuff together? And we've been talking since. So I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah.
He's just one of those guys as well, Christopher Lewis, that he walks into a room and he's kind of hard to miss because not only is he tall, but he's just got that smile. I want to talk to him because it's like, who doesn't want to be around somebody that's happy? Who doesn't want to be around somebody that's going to impact you in a positive way? And, even if he's got other stuff going on, he still leads with that. What's going on?
It's that curiosity, it's the curiosity of people. And so you asked me how I started. And so people ask me this all the time. And I always let everyone know, look, I'm just a guy who knows, who loves women and knows women really well. But also I grew up in a house full of women. And basically for myself, I tell everyone, I go my spiel is I say, look, I felt like I was Jane Goodall in the jungle studying gorillas, because it's like growing up with an older sister, younger sister, and a mom. I was the only guy, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on when you live with three women in the house, and there's their mood swings, their ups and downs, and I took a step back, and I was like, you know what? I want to learn from this, because if I learn from this, I'm going to understand women so much that it's going to make me a better person when I'm in a relationship. And so throughout my growing up, through dating, through relationships, all these different things, it ended up becoming the fact that I do understand relationships really well. I understand women really well. And I think that also made me curious about people in general. So I always told myself, if I can just start off being curious about who's around me, knowing your story, that makes my life better, because it's knowledge, and one of the things that I feel that people don't do in this world enough is they don't talk enough to others. They don't take a chance to get to know someone, because everybody's all interested in who they are in their own story,
I agree with that. And have you always been that way, genuinely curious about other people?
Yes. And that's typically because, growing up in Texas, being one of the only Black families in an area of like my parents were the Huxtables, I always say, right? It's like my dad's a doctor, my mom's a psychologist, and we were the only Black kids, in this whole world of whites, right? I can say it that way. But so for me, I had to really learn how to find my place. I had to find out who I was as a person in that sort of environment. Part of me sometimes I want to be like this white kid with blonde hair and blue eyes, but yet I'm not. So I had to learn how to navigate that space. And in order to do that, I had to learn on how to be secure with myself, how to learn who I am, and I feel like that's where my emotional intelligence started at a very young age. I had to question a lot of things, but also always told myself that I'm never going to take a seat back to anyone. I'm going to be who I am, and that's just me. So like you said earlier, what you see is what you get. Like I'm never going to have to like have imposter syndrome. I'm never going to be like act like someone else. It's one of those things where someone meets me, I want them to be like, damn, that guy's just Chris and he's just a great guy. It's not a color, it's not this, it's not that. He's just a person.
I love that. I couldn't agree more with that. Especially, what part of Texas did you grow up in?
San Antonio, and then all of a sudden college, Dallas on.
Oh. That's rough. So we want to make sure we're providing as much value as possible. We've given you a little bit of a background. Before we dive into the dating, there's one topic that we led with. And I like this story because we like to lead with a little bit of a fun story. Can you tell me about that one time you found somebody's wallet after? He also is a
Thanks. Well, I mean, like I always say, it's like if you find something, like whether it be a wallet, whether it be some item that's just sitting around, it's your duty to find out and return it to at least someone who can give it back to that person, right? There's nothing worse because we've all lost something. We've all lost something, right? So one day, one morning, super early, I'm walking to the tennis courts after one of my lessons was done. I'm talking early, like 6:30 in the morning. I see this wallet on the ground. My first instinct was just to walk past it, like we all do, right? And so something just told me, turn around, check it out, because I thought that someone might have sifted by it because it was sitting by a trash can. So I figured someone must have rummaged through it and already took whatever was in there. The wallet's empty. Nope, it's full credit cards, Amexes, ID, all travel, whatever, all these different things. There was still cash in there as well. And I was like, now what do I do with this thing? And so I go, I want to make sure I return it to the person. I didn't want to take it to the police because I felt like the police would probably throw it in some drawer and just, right. And usually what happens, most people cancel their credit cards at this point, whatever it may be. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to try to find this person. So called Amex. They shut the card down because I tried to get his number through Amex. And then eventually I was like, I'm going to go drive to his house. So I drove from where I was about 20 minutes down the road, went to his apartment building, found someone and said that was coming in and out of the lease office where it opened. And I said, hey, here's my number. Can you return this person? And I don't know what apartment he's in, right? But I know he lives here because his address is here. And so sure enough, I get a call the next day and he's super grateful, super thankful. He's like, can I buy you a bottle of wine? Can I do something? And I was like, no. I go, I'm happy it got back to you because I know how I would feel if I lost something like that. And I would hope someone would do the same.
That's amazing. See, that's the kind of way that ultimately, I mean, you helped him out and he felt good about it, but I bet that you felt better that he didn't have to cancel his cards because you just said, if it were me, you wouldn't want that to happen to you.
It's a hassle. Think about the driver's license. I mean, you know how hard it is to try to go back to DMV or try to reissue a new driver's license?
And it takes like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. You do pay for it online. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So we know Chris at this point obviously coaches men. Can you give me a little bit of background just for the people that don't know why they should listen to you as a coach who dates men or a coach who is helping date women?
First and foremost, and I do coach women as well. I mean, actually, it's funny. Okay. I actually coach a lot more women than men, which is crazy because
this is awesome.
Yeah, because they always want to find out why guys are the way they are, right? So that's my prerogative to be in that space for both. But one of the things that I want to tell men right now, I feel like is the biggest thing that is a hindrance to a lot of guys is the fact that, and this is why a lot of women say there's not a lot of emotionally intelligent men out there theoretically. It's just because of the fact that, it's men allow their egos to get in their way too much. And when their ego gets in the way, so that's one of the things that I teach men. I teach them how to let go of their ego by saying, look, ego's meant for confidence. It's not meant for arrogance. And so once you understand the definition and how to balance that correctly, your confidence shines in a way where that's ego. That's great ego, right? People are like, wow, that guy's got a fantastic, he's confident. That to me is that's my ego shining through, right? I never use it for arrogancy. And one thing that I tell women all the time, which is really fun, I say women have all the power, they just don't know it. So I teach women how to get their power back because I say guys are easy creatures.
Do you use references from The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene?
No, I've read that, by the way, though, and so he probably got all that stuff from me. So I'm just
oh shoot. Okay, I love it. You see, and ultimately there's a difference between ego, confidence, and then knowledge and application of the confidence and knowledge. So I misstated here. Can you tell me a little bit how you got into dating women? Is it because your upbringing and being around 3 women your whole life? Is that a huge reason and huge help for you to be able to coach and date women when it comes to men?
Yes, because like I said, women, just first and foremost, when you talk to a lot of women, as they get older, one of the biggest things they say is that they just want someone who's kind, someone who makes them laugh, someone who's funny. And it's not always about looks, right? It's like that's something at a very young age that starts going out the window as women get older, especially not so much for men, we're different creatures, but for women, they just want someone who's kind, who, like, three of the biggest things: who's kind, who's humorous, but the biggest one is also someone that makes them feel safe, someone
Right.
that they can trust, that makes them feel safe, someone who's in their corner at all times.
Right. So how do you make a woman feel safe?
By showing up. If you're showing up and saying, if your actions, I always say actions speak louder than words.
True.
It's true. But also at this point in time, if you're using words, like I said, you have to be able to communicate those in order to get those actions to go through.
Right.
So when a woman is looking for you to do something, there's so many ways to step up in a relationship from day one. When you're sitting in front of that girl for the first time on a date, showing up by listening, by communicating, by asking the right questions. It's not always about you. It's about making sure that she is the star in the room.
Right.
And you're like just one of the extra background players at this point in time, right? So you just want to make sure that you're showing up for her, letting her know that you're here, and that's where a woman starts seeing that attraction, because you're there showing up for them by listening and asking the right questions first and foremost.
And how do you navigate that? Because naturally, if you're not a egotistical man, but if you're a confident man and a man of high value, how do you not tone yourself down, but make sure that they feel seen and heard? Because you've navigated through relationships,
right,
and you've been with very beautiful women. So, like, how did you learn to break the pattern of showing up?
First and foremost, making sure that the first thing I always do is make sure that you act like that they're the only one in the room.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm sitting there talking to someone, whether I meet someone from just, let's say you're at a party, right? You're talking to someone, and all of a sudden, every person you go up to, that person should feel like, wow, he's acting like I'm the only one in the room. And that's where it starts from there. And if you can accomplish that, you're right, with ego standing, not taking place, they always say, like, less is more. If you're confident enough, you don't have to do much. You just have to just be there, showing up, being attentive, and making sure that they're the only one in the room.
That's impeccable. Have you dated women that have been in open relationships, or coached women that have been in open relationships? Because this is an interesting topic that I think we need to dive into a little bit.
It depends on what your definition of the word open. So, there's different types, and a lot of people don't really know that they're open until you actually start mingling in that mix of something, right?
Right.
Most of the time, someone finds out they're open, and what happens if their partner is curious enough to ask them, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you think about that? And if they trust you enough, or if they're curious enough, yeah, sure, I'll see what happens. And that's how that starts.
Wow. So I guess open, because there's this modern day word or terminology, or open, or there's like 3 or 4 people in the one relationship. Like, one guy is dating 3 girls at the same time.
Polyamorous relationships. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
I actually got an email today from an agent, and let's see, there's this new series that's coming out called The Poly. And there's this married couple, like, been together for 15 years, that I just read today on the email, and I researched them, and she wanted to know if they could be on Dating Intelligence. And I was like, and I get a lot of these from outreach from managers or agents, or people who have clients in this space to get on different podcasts and stuff. And usually I'm like, no, not a fit, not a fit, not a fit. Yes, a fit, not a fit.
Right.
This intrigued me because they are polyamorous. And so they have a series that they're going, a reality series that they have over 400,000 subscribers, basically, right? They've had over 1 million views on their stuff on TikTok, and now they got an episodic deal on us for a series on a major network. So I'm like, yes, I'd love to have them on the show, because I've had polyamorous people on my show before, but this is curiosity, because they're married. The other ones have been dating. This is actually a married couple, so I'm very curious to know on how they started, what they're doing right now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So when you say they're married, so far, do you understand that they're married within the poly, or just the two are married and they have...
The two are married, and I feel like they have always, like, a girlfriend, and I'm not going to, like, speak out of term here because I haven't spoken with them yet, but I'm assuming whoever their partner is, there's a third one in there as well, but not married, though. It's probably just a girlfriend / boyfriend to whomever.
Okay.
for that situation.
Wow. So a man at your level with your podcast and with all the exposure you've been able to obtain, with all the success you've been able to obtain, how do you distinguish what kind of partnership or what kind of person or company that you actually want to interview with or partner up with? Because you can make one wrong choice and maybe get the publicity that you don't want.
Right. Well, that would be Taylor Frankie Paul right now. The new Bachelorette on ABC. So she did our show like when they found her out in the whole Mormon situation where they were all kind of swinging, and then so she got outed or whatever like that. So she was like a big, Taylor Frankie Paul, Miss, TikTok star, this and that with her group of girls.
Right.
They all got found out. But they all outed her, and now she's on an island by herself. So we took her, and she came on the show like that first week after all this happened. So I actually reached out to her the other day after I heard about the Bachelorette stuff with this domestic abuse stuff that's going on. I don't know if you know the whole story or not.
No,
but
I don't
so
know
the new, the Bachelor show.
Yeah.
So the Bachelorette show, she was the new Bachelorette that's supposed to have came out this Sunday, and and her past partner just put out something from 2023 of this video of her throwing chairs at him, and her child was in the room. And apparently you heard the child crying. And so it became this huge thing. So ABC dropped him on Sunday, right before they released the new Bachelorette show. They dropped the series. And they knew what was going on, because this is 2020. They know her background and story. But this dude decided just to put, oh, look what happened. Someone found this hidden file and I'm going to put it out there. So everybody is livid right now on her. And I was like, let me see if I should have her on my show. My new co-host, she goes, don't touch it, Chris. Do not touch this. If you touch this, this is going to be bad for the show. And I was like, not touching it right now. Let it die down for a little bit.
Right. So because again, you guys will see more and more now that I haven't really had somebody like Christopher Lewis specifically in his space on my podcast, but how do you believe, or how do you think that having the right team around you actually helps you distinguish, and like, you're like, maybe I wanted to do that, but then you're like, no, my team told me no. And I actually agree.
Right. I mean, like with anything, right? You have to, if you're the decision maker, because it's my show, right? Or my company, I have to take it and say, what's right and what's not. So just like today, I handed my new book off to one of my friends, and I trust her. She's she's an editor and she reads lots of books, and she's been in the literary space for a while. She's like, look, she goes, I have some criticism for you. I hope you don't take it or any judgment bad. I'm taking notes and here and there. It's not much. I've already read like 60 pages. I think it's great. But there's a few things I would like for you to change. I hope that's not going to bother them. Like, why would it bother me? I gave it to you. And then so what I'm getting at is I even texted her back and said, and if I'll either take it or leave it, like if I feel like it's something that needs to be changed, I'll change. If not, I'm gonna be like, no, that's my discretion. So I feel like, everyone has the right to choose. And then sometimes, like, most things happen, right? If let's say I do decide to have Taylor Frankie Paul on my show, I made the decision, even though it's hot right now, she should probably not do it. But a part of me is like, but if I spin it the right way and get the side of the story that people need to hear, then it's a gold mine, right? It's a win for me, right? So you have to pick and choose and really think about, are you going against the grain, or are you doing something that's outside the box that somebody's missing?
I love that. See, that's how you disrupt, and that's how you're able to grow within your own organization, to grow your organization. If you spin it the right way, if you market it the right way, but you also provide the right value and go at it with the right intention, then it's completely different.
Right. Like my goal was not to, like I said, because I know her, my goal was not to, throw more dirt on her, throw more shame on her. My goal was to figure out how. I know that underneath it all, she's a really good girl, and she's always the first to apologize and say, I made a mistake right away. That was bad. I shouldn't have done that, whatever it may be. But people don't know that. They just see what they see on her new Mormon show or what they've saw from the past. Like, oh, wow, she's just outspoken. She's kind of crass. But underneath it all, she's really cool. Just makes bad choices. So I have to think about.
We all do.
Right. And so my point was, it's like, I still was like, if I have her on the show, what does this mean? Like, and I hear you saying that it could really destroy whatever is already out there. People might be throwing, shame or whatever it is on the show, but I got to spin it in a way where it's going to be positive. And most people who are successful are willing to take the chance. Right.
I agree with that. Most people who are successful are willing to take the chance because they took the chance first to start their business. They made the choice to decide to actually start their business, because that's all everything is, right? We just discussed this before the podcast, choices. And I want to plug in what does it mean, or in the common dating world right now, since you're coaching women, what does it mean for women when they go for an intention? They are looking for a high value man. What is it that you coach them on and distinguish and find out about them first before they go looking for a high value man that they're wanting to date?
Right. So let's make sure we got that in the right context.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah.
If you say like, a woman going for a high value man,
Okay.
I need to know, first of all, what type of woman this is and what's her true intentions.
Okay, you tell me.
Like
give me an
daddy?
example.
Let's be honest, right? Is she looking for a sugar daddy, or is she someone who has a lot of value, who has a lot of worth, who has that whole thing going for her? Like, let's say she's successful, she's smart, she's got everything she needs. She wants someone to walk the walk with. That's different.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's the same reason why a lot of actors date actors, or a lot of people in like a higher state of, industry, they all get together. You don't see someone like a Taylor, what's her name? Who's the singer? Taylor Swift. Thank you. Taylor Swift, it's like, I'd love to have her just date someone, just some normal Joe.
No.
I mean, it's possible. Don't get us wrong, right? It is possible. But at the same time, though, you're in the same circles, right? You're in similar circles. So when a woman is looking for a high value man, if she's in those circles, yes, then that's different, though. Same as a guy who wants what he wants, right? I got to go, what are your intentions? Like, like with my new company mentality, it's for guys in their 40s and 50s who want to date of their own age. So I use the term who are looking for the right fit for right now. I don't want a 50-year-old date. He goes, I want to date a 20-year-old. I'm like, go buy, do that on your own time. Good luck with that, by the way. That's a different intention. But if someone is like, intentionally looking for someone of his own age range, like I'm 55, right? If I'm like, I want to find a girl who's like, no less than 6 years younger than me. I feel like that's appropriate. You're intentional about what you're looking for. I don't want a 20-year-old who I got to groom and teach and what all this stuff just because she's hot or she's good and bad or whatever it may be.
Right.
There's more to it than that. Not to everyone, but eventually that gets old.
I love that. So really it's just first understanding exactly what it is they want, right?
Right. And here's the flip side. If you're honest about what you want, I always say, look, as long as you're honest about it, I'm okay with that, but just don't lie to me. Just don't lie to yourself. A lot of people go, yeah, I just want someone who makes me, like a lot of guys, for instance, they go, I want a strong, independent woman. And I'm like, you can't even handle that. It's like when you find that, all of a sudden they go, oh, wow, she was too high maintenance. This and that. It's like, no, she wasn't high maintenance in that respect of what they think in high maintenance is. She's just, her life is busy. And you thought that just because you had someone who was high maintenance, someone who's always up under your thumb wanting, you're paying for her, you're giving all this stuff. Now you want someone who's independent, has her own thing.
Right.
But yet this woman doesn't need you for anybody. And now you're like, your ego gets bruised because she doesn't need you to help her. She doesn't need you to provide for her. And that's when that doesn't work out. So their intentions were not really the fact that they wanted someone of value, equal value. They still wanted someone who makes them feel good. Like, oh, wow, she bruised my ego because she didn't need me or she made me feel like shit. Then they break up, right?
I agree.
That's not the right intention. So you're lying to yourself, right? You're not being truthful. Like me, when I say I want a woman in like my partner, like she's like, I want an independent, strong woman who doesn't need me for anything. That's the type of women that I look for. And I mean it, because it's like, my goal is to like, I want to walk alongside of them. I don't need to and we overlap, that whole journey is for you guys to overlap. When she's up and I'm down, she steps it up. When I'm down up and vice versa, it's an equilibrium balance. That's what a relationship is.
So when you say that's what a relationship is, it's literally what you just broke it down to. First, ultimately, clearly communicating on both sides what you want. With the relationship you're in, if you don't mind me asking, did you guys both set the intention like on the first or second date of what it is that you guys wanted, or was it?
I think I did that. I'm like, okay. First of all, when we were redating, we met back about 20 years ago, and I got married in between. But it was funny on how we just reconnected like probably 4 months after my divorce. It was her birthday. I reached out, and we've been ever inseparable since. But she was in a residency 20 something years ago, but now she's a full blown doctor. And I was like, so getting back, I was the one who was like, came and, for that second date dinner going, I had my little paper, I probably see this online or whatever right now. I was like, after and I go, so I need to read this to you. And I don't want you to look at me while I'm reading this to you because it's pretty embarrassing. And I said, look, I go, you will always make more than me right now. You will always have this more than me. And I go, I just want to let you know that I don't care. I don't mind as long as you think I'm not in this for that reason. Right. I'm in this because you've known me. I feel like this is why we're here. All the other stuff doesn't matter. Now, if you feel like it's not for you, you let me know. She's like, I'm great. 8 years later, it's been great. you know? So that to me was never intimidating to me. Like, you know, this woman makes a high, almost 7-figure, sort of situation. And I'm like, I'm happy, and she knows I pull my weight. And she says all the time, you have things in this relationship that I don't have. And that's why we're together, because I step up every time.
I love that. I love that. So for the entrepreneurs that have tuned in finally, that maybe are finally listening at this point, how did you find a way to become a successful podcaster and successful business owner in general?
Thinking outside the box as much as possible. Like everyone has something. Everyone has, there's any idea that you may present. There's a lot of people that might have had that same idea. They're just spun in different ways, right? Any new business that you decide to start that you think is new, someone's probably done it or doing it. You're like, damn, I thought I was the innovator, right? But you can still be the innovator. That's why new companies always take off, right? Who would have thought, like, for instance, Under Armour, let's go with sports, right? With the brands, Nike, Adidas, all these other brands out there, and this new brand, Under Armour, you're just like, what the hell is this little brand, right? But now look at them. They're a giant. It's like anyone breaking into a space of anything has to be outside the box thinking. And so for me, my first process is, even from my clothing line back in the day to what I'm doing now, all my businesses, before I started, I go, what's going to make me stand out? What's going to make me different? And I research and I listen and I watch, and all my mentors or the people that I look up to, and someone I go, I want to be like that person. That's who I strive to be. I look at it in a way of going, how can I be different than that person, not just be another cookie cutter version of that person?
Right.
So that's what I always say. Think outside the box. And if you're willing to take a chance, like we said earlier, and think outside the box and still make those mistakes to make you better, or do something that's going to be out of the ordinary that might fail or might succeed. You just don't know, but you got to be able to try. And that's starting with an outside the box way of thinking.
So when you say outside of the box and when you say find a way to stand out, is there a couple people or mentors that you've utilized and then put in your own personality and brand into it that you'd be willing to share? And then we'll come back to Dave.
I mean, everything I've done, like whether it be from when I was modeling, whether it be to where I had my tennis line for 8 years, whether to what I'm like my podcast,
right.
But one thing I don't do is, like, I hear and I see, but one thing that I try not to do is I try not to follow. I appreciate and admire certain people, like clothing brands, like for instance, like let's say like John Varvatos, right? Like I love his brand, right? Or at the time when I was modeling my women's tennis line, after it was through Juicy Couture, before athleisure wear became a name, like Lululemon came around, all these things. I was doing things that people were not doing, and so all the tennis clubs were turning me down because it was like they were like, this does not look like tennis club, and I go, but that's the thing. It's called on the court, off the court look. Like it's like, I wanted something, I wanted fashion. I wanted to be stylish. I didn't want the same box cutter skirt and top that everyone was doing. I wanted a dress that looked different. I looked to Nike, I looked to certain things, but I looked at that as an appreciation, but I never followed it enough to actually get caught in that same, that same path. Right. So for me, all of my mentors that I look to, I look at their stuff, I like their stuff, but I go, I don't want to know enough about them because I want to make sure that I'm doing it my own way. Like a lot of people, like we talked about today, like Joe Rogan, you were saying, well, I got the Joe Rogan setup. I'm like, I appreciate, guys, if you see like, Mark's setup, it's pretty special. And I'm a little envious because I can't do this on my own, but I wish I could.
I got you. I'll help you.
But I love the fact that Joe Rogan setup, which means you know a lot about him. But a lot of people, they formulate their shows after him. They formulate different things. Me, even stuff that I do on my show, it's like, I can't have a script. I tried that on day one when I started. And I realized this through my acting days. I was like, anytime a script's in front of me, I freeze.
I got you.
I'm such better at ad-libbing. I'm such better off the cuff. I'm such better at improving. So give me a topic, I'll run with it. And that's how I follow my path on my script of a show. There isn't one.
I love that because that's where the ultimate creativity comes out, because you put in enough work prior to the show to be able to do that.
And I'm confident enough to know that I can spin it and run it the way I want to and navigate it the way I want to.
And this man trains his mind. He trains himself. He goes to train tennis. So keeping your mind running like this helps you. I mean, if you see us together outside, we don't stop moving around. We look like little, like crazy, like crackheads, if you will, in the coolest
true.
way. Like we both like can't stop moving, and people are like, what's wrong with you? Like, we have all this energy. We can immediately utilize it.
Yep.
So I want to come back to you and to your value. And you have a lot of value, but I'm just talking specifically about dating. Talk to me about the emotional awareness of a woman and how that navigates through the relationship when it comes to a woman and a man?
Well, I feel like a lot of times that, there is, and there's there's always going to be a huge difference, right? No matter
Yes.
how much you feel like you know and how much of an expert you are in something, there's always something that you don't know, right? There's something that you want to learn. There's something that you're still trying to get knowledge on. So every day, like I wake up, no matter how much I feel like I know about women and how much I know about relationships, I'm still learning as much as possible. I'm still growing. And so for me, they always say, what's that saying? If you feel like you're the smartest one in the room, you might as well just like end
You're
your
in the
life right
wrong
now,
room.
right? Yeah, you might as well end your life. So I'm always, no matter who I'm with in what room, I feel like you said earlier, I'm so curious about everyone. I want to learn about as much as I can as possible because there's always a new twist. Some of the stories might be the same. Some of the people you might meet are the same. Some of my same dating, coaching, when I date coach clients, their stories are very similar. They're different stories, but it's the same through line. So you pick up on those cues, you learn how to ask the right questions. And once again, I'm never, ever going to say that I'm always right.
Right. So when you learn, and now you got at least like 15 years of experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you've learned more about women and you've coached these women, how have you taught them to get their power back?
By first and foremost telling them that, look, I know that women especially, they always have this template when they were young. Most women, it depends, not so much on the East and West Coast, but let's go Middle America, especially.
Okay.
A lot of women, what do? You grow up with dolls, you grow up playing, I want to be married, I want this, I want Prince Charming, blah, 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 right? It's all Disney movies, it's all these other things. It's changed a lot now, obviously Me Too and some other things, but women are just, they have their own job, they know their worth now, right? But one of the biggest things that women want is the fact that they just now want a partner who can actually be a best friend with them as well. There's still the woman who wants to be, the subservient, submissive woman to a man, where they want a true alpha man, and that's that red pill theory, where a lot of women want the guy to lead, although a lot of women want the guy to be in the household. They're the man, whatever he says goes. And then, but there's, the majority of women in the world are not like that. They just, if a guy did that to them, they're like, see ya, out the door, right? But, so coming
Right.
with that being said, the emotional awareness that women have is that they want to make sure that a guy is able to just communicate, listen, be there for when they need them. And like the word I like to use, just be there in their corner.
Right.
Think of a boxer, right? They're what is it called? Their manager or whoever he's training them, they're always in their corner. They got their back. That's all that a woman truly wants. A guy can have, yet still, we still need our space. We still need our independency. We don't need to be smothered all the time. But at the same time, you want to know that that person's there when you need them.
So what does a man want?
It's easy. Men are easy creatures, it depends. Men just want, time. They want their independency time. They want a lot of sex. They want to be heard.
Right.
A lot of, more so than anything, you think women want to be heard. A lot of men just want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged, about
Right.
it's like all their accolades. They want to be, oh, that's great, honey. Wow, we're so proud of you. That's the pat on the back. It's one thing that I tell my partner, I go, for me, it's like, I go, look, I don't need much. I feel like we're always trying to connect because our lives are busy. And so I said, look, sometimes you just have to just put a finger on me and just touch my shoulder. I'm like, ooh, that makes me, that gets me going for days, and so I just need to know that, that I'm here,
Right.
and because I know our lives are busy. Once again, it's that acknowledgement. Like I need that appreciation of just like, Chris, love you, you're doing great. How are things? And that's it for me. That'll last me for weeks on end. But when it goes silent, now your brain starts running, like, all these things start moving along. Like you feel that disconnect. And I know a lot of couples know what I'm talking about. There's
Right.
a lot of couples have a disconnect because they're all like, especially when women have kids, the women are with their children all the time. The husband's working a lot, or vice versa, or even the women are working, right? So you get home, we go to our respective corners, and we want to watch our show. We need our time. We need our breaks, right? But when is that time that you guys actually get together to spend time with each other, to connect? Put your phones down, turn off the TV, take that time to just, and by the way, that's usually takes maybe 10 minutes. That's all you need. It's about 10 minutes a day.
Right.
Hey, how was your day? walk in the door, put your stuff in. How was your day? Oh, it was great. Let's talk about it and be present in that time. What we were talking about as well. A lot of people can ask you, how's your day? But their eyes are rolling. They're on their phone. Hey, Mark, how's your day? But they're on their phone doing stuff. That's not being present.
You're right.
Just
You're
be
right.
present. 10 minutes a day.
So would you agree with your expertise to kind of expand on that? This is my idea of what a man wants. And maybe I'm wrong here. We really want just a woman that believes in us more than we believe in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We want, sure. I mean, on the, outer end, of course, we want a lot of sex.
Yes, we do.
We do. We want them to comply in the bedroom how we want, but ultimately to believe in us and give us the freedom and our creativity, even if sometimes they don't agree with our creative space. Right. And with that said, I think that you hit it off the knock with just saying like, coming home, like let's say for example for you, like if you live with your partner or you guys have separate places, but when you guys agree to meet up, having that set time to like, okay, like I just got home, I just finished doing my work day, give me a little bit, now let's reconvene for a couple hours or this X amount of time, let's be with each other fully, and then after that, like let's go ahead and go our separate ways or do that. How important has that been for you in this relationship to excel and ultimately grow in a flourishing relationship?
I've learned a lot from that. And like I said, guys, it's been in a lot of relationships, especially being married for 17 years. And even with a recent partner of 8 years, it's one of those things where we get comfortable. And so what I've learned for myself is that, every Sunday we check in, hey, what's your week like? Once again, she's a doctor. She's got a lot of moving parts. She's traveling a lot. She's doing things so that I know what the week's like. She knows what I'm doing. I know what she's doing. We now set little time in between. Okay, hey, this will be a date night. I'm coming over this night, whatever it may be. But at the same time, like now when I walk in the door, hey, honey, she's upstairs on her computer, doing work stuff. Hey, how much time do you need? How much more time? I got another hour, Chris, and I'll be down. Great. When that hour is up, just come down, spend some time with me for an hour. And then she goes, but then I got to go back. I have a meeting on I have a Zoom call, whatever it may be. Great. So now I can expect the time to spend with her that I can go off and do my own thing in between those times, that she said. And now when we come together, I make sure that our phones are away. We communicate. We are connected. And then we go off to do our own things.
So that expectation management as
right.
well.
And the tough part is like, if you don't talk about it, it now becomes assumptions and now becomes, well, I'm going to do what I'm going to do because she's busy, he's busy. So, and no one ever talks about why there's that emptiness in the relationship.
I love that. So with that said too, this is going to be a generic question, but you can give me the criteria. And I say generic because it can go many different angles. And I'm just learning that of just talking to you for the past like 20 minutes on this topic. In what scenario is a perfect working relationship? Like, for example, for you have your own business. You have multiple businesses. Your partner has her career as a doctor, and I'm sure she has other businesses.
Yeah, she does. Mm-hmm.
How do you guys truly make that flow aside to the Sunday check-ins, aside to the communication when you get home, when things come up? Like for you, for example, what if somehow after this call or after this podcast, we just land a new partnership and now we have to go drive to Ithaca, right? And Lake Forest. Like, how do you navigate that without your partner getting insanely upset because you had a planned dinner for tonight that you planned out 2 weeks ago?
It's an understanding of like knowing that how important our careers are, what it means to us, and how it's the exponential growth of what that means to us, right? So for instance, a lot of time, if you're in a new career, and you have a partner that doesn't support that career, it becomes this thing of like, I should be doing this. And then all of a sudden you start feeling a little guilty because they put that guilt upon you, right? So one of the things that I told my partner, and she stopped doing this, but when we first started redating again, let's say, for instance, when she had to go emergency, they had in the OR all day on a case, and all of a sudden they got to go back in at 12 at night because they have a liver transplant or whatever it may be. We'd be out to dinner. I'm sorry, Chris, I got to go. And so what I told her from day one, I go, never ever apologize for what you do.
Right.
I said, because that's on me. I go, I will never be mad. I will never be jealous. I will never feel like, she's not spending enough time with me. And which most couples do after a while. They know what your job is, right? When you get together, they know what you're doing. But then what happens is that animosity starts settling down the road because you aren't spending that time together. Now it becomes a thing of like jealousy. It becomes a thing of like, I don't like what you're doing. It becomes a sense of just bad energy.
So do you set the expectation, the framework from the jump? Is that what it sounds like?
Well, hopefully if you can, but once again, that's not a proven fact, because sometimes people, like let's say a younger couple, now all of a sudden a younger couple, this person now becomes, he was like just a regular worker at his business office, corporate office. Now he's the CEO. You can't predict what's going to happen.
Right.
But if you're checking in and making sure, by the way, and I mean by checking in, like I said, once again, my partner's really busy. Like she does, and by the way, this is a true story. She does go off to liver transplants in the middle of the night that are like 6 to 8 hour things. And so all of a sudden we're at home about to go to dinner or make dinner, like you said. All of a sudden it's like, I got to go. And I'm like, okay. But she goes, I'm sorry. But she connects with me in that moment and just doesn't leave. She goes, well, I'll make it up to you, or da-da-da. And we make it up to each other. We make it work. We have those date nights, we check in. But at the same time, we know that our careers are very important right now.
I love that. So I think that's the most beautiful thing, just understanding, right? And you said never apologize for following your path and following your career. And I
mean, who would want that for someone? Think about it. You're with someone and you just want them not to do well.
That's the thing. I don't get it. I think sometimes initially in a lot of relationships you do, and then you cling to, and this is what I've had experience in the past with, you cling to getting used to being around that person. So like you just said it on the money, like career change or career path changes, which means there's more investment on the time on your career as opposed to that person. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, now you don't care about me now, blah, blah, blah. But it's just, you're focusing on what you need to do to excel.
Right.
I don't get it, but I guess maybe it's just because they had a certain expectation of you need to spend Sundays with me, or you need to spend Saturday evenings with me, or you need to spend every evening after I'm off my normal day job for this.
And if that's the case, then I'm going to, that's a two-parter. I can answer on two different ways. I'm going to be I always look at both sides of the coin.
Yes.
If the person says that, right, to whoever they're saying to their partner, that partner should be checking in, making that person feel connected, comfortable, like reassured, loved. Okay. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going off, spend that 2 minutes of like, hey, we got 2 minutes, let's connect, da-da-da. That's worth hours and hours and days worth of time that you might not be together, right? The other flip side of it, if someone continues to act that way, that's not your person.
Right.
Freaking get out of that relationship. That is not your person. If someone continuously knows and yet you're still connecting and giving them that extra time, or trying to make it work as best as you can. Let's say you're connected and that partner that you're talking about is continuously comes home, gives that person the love, shows them, is attentive, does all these things for them, is connected, right? And the person still complains, that's not your person.
Have you seen a lot of women go through this, that they still stick with that person when they had a certain agreement from the jump, but they still stick with it because they love them so much, or because the sex is good, or...
It depends on, like sometimes why do we stay? There's lots of reasons why. It's like, some people are miserable. Why do they stay together? Some people are like, in a space where they're well-to-do. They have a lot of money. They're still miserable, right? So there's no real answer to that.
Right.
Yet you might have two of the poorest people in the world who've been together forever and they love each other to death because that's first and foremost what keeps them together.
Right.
It's that connection. They're showing up time and time again every day. But, moments, once again, that ebb and flow of life, things change, right? That's why when we talk this all the time, it's very tough when I see people getting married at a very young age, and I'm talking literally out of college, whatever it may be. It's like, that's tough. You haven't lived enough life really, but I'm not saying that it will not work. I'm just saying that the odds are probably against you because, you haven't even found your stride yet in your own independency, your own life, let alone your career, let alone having kids. It's a lot of like moving parts. And the ones who get through it, and I've seen it, I've seen connected people who are young, like my sister, my little sister, and her husband, my brother-in-law. They've been married right out of college, but they communicate really well because they challenge each other every day, and their careers are busy. They have one child, and she's now going off to dental school, but it works. They do time together. They go off on trips together. They spend time together, but you never ever see them together because their lives are super busy. He gets home because he works in the restaurant industry. He gets home at night. They're connected, whether it be 10 minutes, whether it be an hour. So they make it work, you know? So, but I feel a lot of people who have all these things that make it work are too afraid to either say something because they're, once again, they're comfortable, or they're too afraid to say something because they're afraid of what the outcome may be.
I like that. And ultimately, you guys, fear is just false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to get that conversation out the way, because if you're not in the right relationship, why waste your time? Because you don't get the time back, right?
You don't get the time back. And now a lot of people are afraid to leave because of that fact. They're afraid that they're not going to have the same comfort level, or they're just too afraid of, I don't know what's out there. You know, that's all fear based, right? And it's valid. You know, it's super valid, because when I broke up with my ex, you know, when we got divorced, the first thing I remember going on one date after, you know, I pulled over and I started sobbing. I was like, what does this mean? It wasn't the fact that it meant to me that I was single again and I'm out in the dating space. I'm not with someone anymore. That was scary.
Right.
So tackle your fears, acknowledge your fears, validate those fears, but you move forward from that and grow and learn from it.
So would it be fair to say that you tackled your fears by just facing them head on? Like after that one date, did you just stop going on dates?
No, because I knew I was relevant. Look at me. Come on, Mark. Look at me, man. I mean, I'm relevant.
I'm doing it for the people that don't understand, because a lot of these people are like, I dated a couple guys, or I dated a couple girls. And it's like, no, I kind of just gave up on that for now. Like,
and I understand it, because sometimes, and by the way, all jokes aside, I understand it, because some people still need to know what their self-worth is. They need to do the work. If you can't jump into relationship to relationship if you haven't worked on yourself. Right. You know, I knew my worth, you know, but at the same time, I lied about that. I take that back. The reason why I cried, because I didn't know what my worth was anymore. And when I got back in the dating space, I was scared. I was like, am I relevant? But that's what I meant by relevant. Do I know what my worth is out in the space again? You know, I knew back in the day, yeah, I could, you know, pull girls all day long. But then I was like, been married for 17 years, and can I still do that? And when I got out there after that date, I cried, because I go, I still got it. But I also knew that I still had work to do on myself, but I do the work every day. So yes, there's a lot of people that need to take that time out to figure out what they need for them. Because if you're not whole for yourself, that next relationship is going to be wasted.
So for those that don't know, what does doing the work on your own actually look like in real life?
Asking yourself what you want, what's you know, once again, patterns, right? What do you not want in the next relationship? You know, ask yourself, what did I do wrong in that relationship? How can I be better? You know, whether it be going to a therapist, whether that be doing, you know, going to the gym, wellness, whatever it may be, taking care of your health, there's all these come into play, right? So, but you have to work on yourself to make you feel confident and whole. Well, you know, like anybody can, like, you know, there's a lot of guys out there and a lot of women as well that prey on the weak. Just like, you know, like animals out in the wild, right? So you prey on the weak, but that person might just latch on, like, I just want to be loved. How many times you've heard that from me? I just want someone to love me. It's like, and then they latch on the first thing, right? And what happens now? Abusive relationship maybe, or this person now doesn't have a voice. They're just being, you know, they're with some narcissist that just ruins their life, right? They're not happy. They're miserable because they haven't taken the time out to find out who they truly are.
So from your perspective, and from your knowledge and expertise, how does a woman go about that and start actually feeling their not only feminine energy, but also their masculine in a way? Because in the world we live in, women really are changing and impacting the world, and we align so congruently now as well. Because I told you before the podcast that I have a conglomerate now that I'm building for women by Miss Jessica Ramirez, who's connecting women.
Jessica.
Hi, Jessica. You're so pretty.
Out.
She's so hot. She's so beautiful too. So that makes it easier for her, right? But like building this conglomerate of women where they can connect and empower each other, because we all know that women aren't compensated correctly. They're not dealt with correctly in relationships. They're obviously objectified, which again, I'm a man, right? I've done it. I get it. I'm a dude that loves women, right? But with that said, like, how does a woman take the action after she's realized her self-worth and kind of just go after whatever she wants from what you've seen and from the women that you've been able to coach and work with?
That's a great question, Mark. A lot of the time, like you said, a lot of women are in the workspace. Let's just start with that fact first. There are a lot of alpha women out there. And sometimes, it's funny because there is this like dichotomy where I tell the beta woman to step it up and be confident in your own voice. Like I said, women have all the power. They just don't know it. They just need to find it, right? A lot of women now where they go overly alpha, overly in that masculine space, not their feminine, I tell them they have to dial it down. And so one of the things that I can say for both is the fact that, never ever change who you are. Like, I feel like a lot of alpha women try to dumb it down for the guys when they're out like trying to be more in their feminine when they don't truly need to be all the time. So I said, look, I go, just, you don't have to not be yourself. Never change who you are. Learn from your mistakes, grow from it, make sure you're doing the work, make sure that your non-negotiables, like, you gotta, women especially, like, narrow that non-negotiable list down, right? You can't have this, and this, and all of a sudden, like, there's no guys for you. Like a lot of women say, there's no good men out there. Well, that may be true, but why don't you look at your list first of things that you have on that list that you are not willing to budge? Take some of that stuff off. Now your pool of men have opened up a lot more.
So be a little bit more open to compromise.
Compromise for sure, but also let's go back to the alpha woman.
Okay.
Yes, I appreciate the fact that you found your life. You're doing great in the workspace. You have a voice. You're a strong, independent woman. But at the same time, you have to recognize that that's not going to match up with most guys very well. So you have to be able to be in your feminine when it's needed. And I'm not saying, once again, don't dumb it down for the guy. That's different. You know what I mean? Stay who you are, but just go in your feminine because that's attractive. That's what attracts us to women in the first place.
That's so empowering, I think, because it's kind of like in different scenarios for a guy, right? Like code switching, right? You're not going to speak to the same corporate guy how you would to somebody on the street, right?
Absolutely.
And you're not going to speak to somebody person that's in the street to somebody who's helping you when you're getting served. You could treat them all with respect, but you might speak to them all a little bit differently.
Absolutely. Right. But that takes an understanding and knowledge and awareness.
Right.
Most people, once again, I've met a lot of people where when they talk to you, I'm like, don't talk to me like that. I was like, I'm not one of your little employees. You know what I mean? It's like this, my ex was like that a lot until we finally found our balance. Like, she used to come really hard all the time. Like, and like she's a corporate woman, really big in the corporate industry, but it was like, that's how she came home and spoke to me. And I was like,
Right.
You don't talk to me like that. It's like, look, just talk to me like, don't talk to me like I'm one of your employees. And so most people don't know how to dial and find that right balance.
How did you find the right balance? From just experience?
Experience. Yeah, just trial and error like anything else. Like I said, it's like what you see is what you get. It's like, what you're hearing on the show, this is who I am through and through. I always told myself I was never, like, no one impresses me. I get impressed, but I always said that there's no one better than me. So even clients that I know or friends that I have, like, I never know what most of my friends do. Probably still know a lot of my friends do because I don't care. I like them for who they are. Like one of my friends, for instance, like, he's an award-winning composer. He came home with an Emmy one night. He goes, "Hey, Chris, I'm having a party at my house." Know the guy for 2 years, right before this time. I've known for 20 plus years now, but 2 years in, "Hey, Chris, I'm having a party." I go, "Oh, great. I'll show up. I'm out right now, but I'll come in around midnight, whenever." And there's an Emmy award sitting on his table. I'm like, "Whose is this?" He goes, "It's mine." I go, "Wait a minute. You just won this?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "What do you do again?" But he's such a great guy.
That's amazing.
Like I don't care about what people do. That doesn't impress me. What
You care about their
impresses me
character.
is their character and how you show up. That's what's impressive.
I love that. I'm going to get a little selfish here and ask you a question that I just read that I think is very important for a young man, any man that's looking to date a high value woman. And you tell me and you give me the criteria if this question is too generic. What do high value, emotionally intelligent women do different on a first date?
Wow. No, on a first date, what they should do is just sit back and let the guy audition for them. So I can't answer that any better than that because I feel like a lot of, like, let's say the more insecure ones will try to lead the date by just talking too much and sharing too much about who they are. Whereas maybe a high value woman, and are we talking one that's in their alpha state, let's say, or where they're at?
Let's say alpha state.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they try to lead in a different way. They lead by just trying to, hate to say it, but they try to bully you into submission. They try to see if you, let's see, I'm just gonna just say stuff and see if he can come back and handle it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So once the guy is like a little shrivel of a shell core, especially I feel guys, sorry guys, I'm laughing.
It's
I feel
okay.
sorry for the weaker guys who don't know how to handle this, because the weaker guys will just sit there and just like, okay, like, oh my God, like, like scared in a corner, where another alpha guy will sit there and be like, battle her to where it doesn't work out, because now he's like, you're not going to talk to me like that, and so it's almost like this, now they're in a fight, sort of this conflictual type of date. Whereas I tell the woman, I go, I don't care if you're beta, alpha, if you're introvert or extrovert, let the guy audition for you. When he should be asking the questions. He should look around on how he behaves with, his etiquette, with his chivalry. Is he opening doors? Is he talking to the waitstaff correctly? Is he being a kind person? Not with an ego, I got this, or you spilt this, or you did this, or like, or I got this, look at my shoes, I got this car in the front. No one wants to hear that shit.
Nobody does.
I mean? So I don't care. It doesn't matter if of emotional intelligent woman or not. Some guy who's just of that level that they've chosen sometimes is not the right frequency for that person. And this is why I did my first speaking gig on my own, like my own stand-up, I don't want to call it stand-up, my own first speaking gig, where I called it Stay in Your Dating Lane. Everyone has a lane. Sometimes a lot of guys go outside that lane because they think more with their lower half versus their brain.
Right.
So they see a woman, we're more physical, right?
Right.
So a guy will most likely walk up to a girl. It's the power of numbers. We'll go up to like 20 girls. One of those girls got a hit.
Everything's a number.
So whereas me, I'll walk into a room. You could put 100 women in front of me. Let's say I'll go 10. Put 10 women in front of me. I know exactly the 2 or 3 or 1 that I'm talking to in that moment.
Are you able to do that based off energy or observing?
Observing their energy and the way that they're communicating with each other,
and their like body language?
Body language, all of it, But most, like, I will never, ever walk to a woman cold, ever, because that's just a death on a door.
Give the people a couple tidbits or a couple golden nuggets on how to read body language, how to read their energy that you are willing to share.
Okay, so let's first and foremost see how they're speaking with their friends, how they're in their friend group. So let's go with that. How, when a guy approaches them, especially if she's a really beautiful woman, how a guy approaches them, how her body language is to that guy, how she's acting to him. Because first and foremost, she might, remember this, guys, a lot of women who are very beautiful in any space, any social setting, they have their guard up for the most part. Unless she's just super outgoing and just super cool. That's the one that I love the most, where she's like, she'll talk to any guy, even though if he's a douchebag or if he's like a nerd, right? They will compliment, they will appreciate anyone talking to them, and they will engage as if that person is the best looking guy in the world or whatever it may be. They treat them the same. I love those women, right? That woman is like, she's my people. But then you have women where they're always taken aback because they have their guard up, because so many guys have hidden on them so much that day already that they're just like, they're over it. So that's the stuff you look for. Body language,
Gotcha.
You look for the way that they're speaking with their friends. You look at the way that they handle how they're looking around the room. That's another thing too. Some women are just, the guys do the same thing. They're just sitting there, they know they're hot. They're shaking their head. They're looking around. Their friends are talking to them. But yet, as we're talking right now, they're looking beyond you, over you, around, just like trying to see who's looking at them. Those are women I will never approach either. It's like, I'm like, you know what? She's not worth anyone's time because she's so into herself that she's looking around, seeing who's looking at her.
Gotcha. And when you say read their energy before you speak to them, is that based off body language too, or is that based on them talking to their friends?
Laughing,
Okay.
Laughing. So what do we look for? Laughing's infectious, right? The way that they're, giggling with their friends, their energy leaning towards a person talking with them or whatever it may be. Sometimes, you've probably had this before. I mean, I know I have. It's where someone will come up to you or with your partner or just a friend, like, oh my God, you guys are like, I just want to be around you guys. I just walking by and looking at you two, and you guys seem like this is where the fun is.
Right.
Or you guys look like a great couple, or, you guys, like, I've had people, I remember I was in Cannes one time, we were there before I went to Paris, and this guy was walking past this little like bar, and me and my partner, we were on the dance floor dancing, run around. He just walks in, starts dancing. Hey, what's going on? He goes, I don't know. I was just walking by, and I just literally walking by outside, and I looked through the door and I saw you two dancing. And I mean, there's like 20 other people in there. He goes, you guys look like fun and cool. I just wanted to be next to you. That's giving off the energy. That's energy.
I love it. Everything is, right?
And when you respond by going, yeah, hey, come dance or whatever, that he picked up on the right cues. It was great.
I love that. So would you say then, because I can agree to that, but then I think because how we met and how you understand me a little bit more, I'm such a go-getter that I'm gonna go and shoot my cold shot just because I want to, just because because I door knocked for so long, or maybe just because in this life I haven't been able to get anywhere without doing the cold approach.
Right.
For men that are looking for cold approaches or do the cold approach, is there any suggestions that you would give to them?
Yes, do it. The reason, and I'm going to toot your horn here. So what you just heard Mark say is that cold approach does work when you're being authentic and real.
Oh, okay.
Like one thing about you, when you came in, it's like, when that energy you gave off was like, that's why I admired you. Like you were just curious. You had no agenda. There was like, you were just curious to be around people who had more knowledge than you, and you were ready to soak it up and learn from that. That's a difference. So most of the time when on the cold approach, that's one thing that I will agree with and validate by saying, like, most of the time if you just walk up to someone and say, hi, and it's genuine, 9 out of 10 times people will read that generosity and that genuity and that energy and be like, hey, and now you've let their guard down. They're open.
Wow, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. This is why I always say it's been used a lot, and it's overly used, by the way. But leading with your true authentic self, hands down, will always win.
So for those people that are so into themselves, or maybe they've lost their authentic self along the way, especially in this place that we live in, Los Angeles, right? How do you find your true authentic self if you're not putting in the work on your own?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I can't say that, a lot of people have been jaded in life. We've obviously, once again, it depends on your backstory. Like we've been hurt, we've been abused, there's lots of pain, we've been jaded, we've been, we don't trust people. So all these things come into play that make us who that person is that you just talked about. So how to let that go is you have to allow someone in order to make a difference, to change that up. And that's where someone like myself comes in, where it's like, I love talking to all different walks of life. Like you said, from a CEO to a person on the street to a whatever, because everyone has a story. And it's that person that may change the way that you believe in someone like me turning in that person's wallet. Wow, he's trusting again now. You know what I mean? It's like someone has to start that movement, right?
Right. And it starts with ourselves, ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Is there anybody in your life specifically that helped impact you to make you be such a wonderful human being?
I'll give that to my mom. She's passed away, but I love my mom for that.
I love her too.
My mom was always like, you know what? My dad was like the enforcer or the disciplinarian in a good way.
Right,
It's like, he's always been like, what are you doing with your life? You need a job. You need to do this. You need to have that. And so it made me go, wow, I got to have my shit in order, in life, right? My mom was like, as long as you're a good person, Chris, I know all that other stuff. That's the easy stuff. They've already implemented that through schooling and whatever it may be. But she kept saying that no matter what you do, just remember being a good person and don't ever be afraid to chase your dreams.
That's amazing. What's your mom's name? What was your mom's?
Betty Lewis.
Miss Betty Lewis.
Soul, passed away
her.
7 years ago.
I'm sorry for your loss, but I know she was an amazing human being, an amazing woman, because we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for her. Shout out to all the mothers.
Yeah, shout out.
Man. So we're getting close to the wrap here, but while I still have this amazing human being in front of me, we want to lead with a little bit more value. What is it? How do I ask this without sounding so controversial and horrible?
I like controversy. Go ahead, Mark.
How do you distinguish a woman who just wants you for your money as opposed to a woman who wants you for you as you're, growing as an individual? Because a lot of the men that are following me now are starting to see that I'm somebody who's growing in value. How do you distinguish those two things?
I mean, it's like you attract what you want.
Oh.
Let's just say that, right?
Okay.
I've never had a woman come for me for money, but yet I present myself, and I have, but I have all that, but it's never been that way, because it's like I attract what I want. So if you're attracting, if you want if you want a girl who's 5'10", hot, Model S, whatever, maybe big boobs, whatever your physical type is, and I lead with that because that's what we look for first, right? And you're not thinking what's inside of that, that's what you're going to attract. And now you blame that after you've had it, going, well, she just wanted me for my money. You created that. Sorry. But if you're smart enough to know that that's not what you want more of a woman of high value who's going to be by your side, walk the walk with you, be smart, intelligent, sexy, all these other things, you can also get that too. But you attract what you get.
So you have to get very specific as to what you want.
Now, mind you, once again, this is where I debunk all my own rulings, because once again, I see every side of the coin. I look at the good side and I look at both sides. I always say I look at both sides, right? in those moments where I go, you know what, Mark, I just want a hot girl. I don't care if she wants more money. It's all I want. Like I have a few friends like that. They go, look, I just want a young girl who I can pay stuff for. I don't care. And then when the girl takes advantage of them, they know that they don't care though. Yep, that's what I got. What I wanted. She got what she wanted. Once again, they were honest about it, right? They weren't lying about it. Well, gee, I thought that's what I wanted, but I'm like, dude, you always wanted just a hot girl. Own up to it. You know, don't be afraid. Don't lie about it. You know, because that will also, those layers will get unpeeled by that person, and all of a sudden you see that's the stuff as well. So once again, you attract what you get. And if you are the flip of that and you want what you want, be honest about it. I can't fault a person for being honest for what they want.
When you decided that you wanted to start pursuing relationships again, did you write down specifically what you wanted out of a woman and what you wanted to change in yourself? Did you write it down, or how did you like implement that? Because I truly believe in writing things down to stick it in my brain.
Right.
How do you go about that?
Once again, it's just life experience. Like, you know, I'm a certified dating coach, relationship coach, but, and I was even fighting to go to get my certification about 8 years ago. I was like, do I really need this? And sure enough, when I was in getting it, my mentor at the time, who was a really big dating coach, she goes, look, you don't need it. You know what you're doing, but you just need the certification.
It's just the credibility.
People ask that. So, I was asked by this girl about 3 months ago. Actually, it was over New Year's Eve, right? Just this girl was just a pain in my ass. Excuse my language, but she literally was like, "So, what makes you a dating coach, relationship coach?" And she was, you could tell, like she was already had a ton of issues, but she kept telling me her issues, and I said, mine's through life experiences. Like getting at you, I don't have to write anything down. I grew up this way. It was a learned experience for my whole life. Right. 8 years old, 7 years old. You know, I remember when my mom came in on one date when I was 8 years old. True story. When she got divorced from my dad, went on one date, Mark, and she came home after the date. I remember I was talking to my grandmother, her mom. Her mom's like, you know, how'd it go? She goes, you know what? I just want to devote my time to my kids. I'm done dating. Yeah. Never dated again. And I was like, wow. I just want to devote my time to my mom at that age. If she's going to give her time to us, I'm going to devote my time by being the best kid that I can be. Right. My sisters were crazy. Here I am, good kid all the time. Nothing worse than going, you guys are driving me nuts. You're all bad kids. I'm big, but I'm the good kid. You know, I would never say it out loud, but I knew that's what I was going to be until I went off to college, because I wanted to make sure, being the only male figure in the house, I didn't need to give her grief. I didn't need to be running in the streets. I need to be, you know, I need to be as the best person in that scenario I could. So I learned, I listened, I watched, and that's how I got my experience.
I love that. And would you say that stuck with you? I mean, because the only class that I truly enjoyed in college was child and family development. Mm-hmm. So would you say that that's something that was like a pivotal, like not milestone, but pivotal like stone in your brain from that young age?
It was. And, you know, like anything else, what do we do when we feel like we are good at something? We need that sort of validation and reassurance, right? So every time I'm doing something, even now, yes, I've read the books. Yes, I've done the research. You know, you could call out any major, you know, author of any great relationship book. To be honest, I wouldn't know their name. A lot of people quote names and stuff. I don't do that just because of the fact that I did walk the walk of life. Right. I'm very sure of myself in this space, you know, so I can go up against, and I've had lots of people who are validated experts, mentors to me, where they're like, damn, you know your shit. And I'm like, wow, okay, I truly know what I'm talking about. So, but you know, you still seek that validation out to make sure that you know what you're doing. You have that expert level. I'm never going to say I'm an expert, and I still don't say I'm an expert. I just know what I'm talking about because I've walked the walk and I've talked the talk.
So what did you have to do to become actually certified to become a dating coach? What does that look like?
Paying the money.
Paying the money. So there's no classes?
Showing up no, there's classes, you know, there's showing up to class and just paying the money. And I did that for a 6-week course. You know, there was like a 2-year class. I go, I don't need all that. I just want to just go through this. And I chose correctly. You know, I didn't know. Did I show up for every class? No, there's, you know, there's 2-year courses. There's like a weekend course. There's like, you know, just like getting your real estate license. Okay. You know, there's different ways of learning, and everyone needs different ways of learning. Right? Like, let's say let's go with the real estate thing, right? Someone who doesn't really truly know real estate might go, I'm more of a book student. I need to do the 2-year class. Where someone might be a fly by the seat of their pant kind of person. I'm just doing the 3-day weekend thing. And that's all they need. They're good at that. Me, for me, the 6 week, actually I take that back. It was a 3-week class. Sorry, 6 weeks. So I took an extra one after that because I wanted to learn a little bit more about one specific thing. But the 3-week thing, I was like sleeping half through it because I already knew what they were talking about. I felt confident, like it just reassured what I was doing. It validated that I know what I'm doing. And this is great because all these other people in the 30 in the class on Zoom are like, excuse me, blah, blah. They were learning. And I never felt like I was belittling them or felt better than them. I actually took that time to listen to why, like I appreciated the fact that they were in this space.
So was that extra piece of credibility for you?
It was, but it made me also learn, once again, you're learning more about people, and that's what I love as well. I'm always curious, and I made sure I always said, Chris, look, you're here, learn, even though like I feel like I'm tuning out every now and then, but I'm listening because it's going to only validate what I'm doing,
right?
To make me feel like I'm doing it right.
I love that. So, and for anybody who wants to like pursue what you're doing, right? Because I'm sure by the end of this podcast, people are going to be motivated and like, yeah, I want to coach women. I want to date women. I want to be around more women. This is something I want to do.
Everybody wants to be Hitch.
Everybody does, right? I mean, this man is doing it for real.
Or Dan Bilzerian. Dan Bilzerian? Everybody wants to be Dan Bilzerian.
Everybody does. Everybody does. And he's worked with him and he's got to interview him, by the way. So keep looking at what he's got going. He's got a lot of big things coming. How would you, or what would you say, or what suggestions have you learned along the way that's somebody's new that's going to pursue what you do? What would you say to them prior to them starting?
First, just believe in what you're doing, like with any job, right? Like if you're going to do it, I hope that you actually take the time to it's continuous education, right? It's like any doctor, any lawyer, in any field of anything. Why do you think people go off to school, graduate school, and even some decide to get their MBA later in life? There's a thirst for knowledge. And so, and believe in what you're doing. You're like, even if it's like, you feel like you may not be the best person in that field, like, like let's go with sports, right? Or you might be the Rudy of the football team, but that doesn't mean that you quit. If you believe in what you're doing, do it. That's all. I'm never one to sit there and go like, who's to say that I can judge what you're doing? Yes, I love when people come and ask me questions, and I'm more than always happy to sit down with them and to let them know my path and what I've done, and I'm very transparent about it, I've actually talked to a lot of people who are arrogant about it, where they turned me off, and I was like, wow, like it's like I just, it kind of made me sad because it's like, wow, you're at this space where you could be helping others underneath you to be their mentor, but yet you're too much of a fuckhead or too much of a bitch to even allow that to happen. So I'm over it.
Right.
I walk away. So I hope that, that these new people that come in find the right mentor that are going to help them grow and learn their craft and become successful, and not someone to turn them away because you feel like, they're taking my clients away.
Right.
They're being too greedy.
And is there a couple things that like you live by now that has helped you change and ultimately grow more as an individual? Because since last time we saw each other, you've grown so much. I've grown so much.
Yes, you have.
Is there anything that you suggest or that's helped you along the way, I should say?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to go for the gold. I guess the easiest way I can say it. Like I said, it's like a lot of people, what's the first thing that stops us from doing something? It's yourself. It's because you're afraid, right? The one that stops you from reaching the heights of what you want to accomplish and do in life, it's yourself. I don't care if people around you might not believe you, but how many stories have we heard that someone says, wow, we didn't believe in what they were doing, but yet they became like a major artist. They've become a major CEO. They've created, they're Amazon now. They're whatever. They're Bezos. They're this guy. They're Steve Jobs, like because they took a chance and they believed in themselves. Don't ever let anyone tell you can't do something until you try it out and take it to the fullest. I've had someone offer this question to finish this off for us today. I've had someone ask me, have you ever failed at anything out of everything I've done? And it took me a minute, Mark, to go, huh? And I thought about it as I'm sitting with this person. I go, I've never failed at anything.
I've learned.
I might have had things. Now, here's the reason why. I might have had something that didn't completely was complete success, or I had to drop it or whatever it may be, but I've never failed. Right. And the reason why is because I've tried everything that I wanted to do or try to do. I've done it. I was never afraid not to do it.
So what would you say to people that say, oh, you're spreading yourself too thin. Oh, you want to do all these different things. It's not possible for you.
And I agree with that. But some people have more bandwidth than others, right? It's like being an investor. Some people might have just invested in Apple, right? But some people might invest in Apple, Bitcoin, and, freaking Nike, right? But it depends on your bandwidth. That's why I say to everyone, if you learn how to wait tables, I feel like waiting tables should be the new litmus test and standard for being like a manager at a job or whatever, anything. And just like, that's the person you hire. Like anyone who can take, like, let's say the minimum is of you could handle 4 tables, right? People struggle with 4 tables in the restaurant. I was in the restaurant industry, I was modeling, tough. Right? That was that's my home job when I was off gallivanting. I'd come home and wait tables. I could handle 8 to 10 tables easily. I loved it because I knew how to time manage and do all that stuff. So it's not that you're spreading yourself too thin. It's like how full is your cup?
Right. So is there anything else that you want to leave off with Mr. Christopher Lewis? And I appreciate you taking the time. He took the time and let me set up. It took a little bit longer than usual, but anything else that you want to leave off with before we go ahead and close out?
The best thing that I can say that's top of my head right now is, guys, and Mark and I talked about this before we got on air, was just be present. Enjoy what's going on now. There was a point in my life where, until just recently, where I did not, you could ask me this, Chris, what's success mean to you?
Right.
I would be like, I don't know, because I haven't achieved it. And then when I finally stayed present and not looking beyond where I'm at in this moment right now, I realized that I'm fucking successful,
right?
But because I was trying to reach so many different goals and try to strive to be the next, be like Mike, let's say, right? Or be like this person, whatever it may be. I didn't know what that meant, but now I do. It's just, so be present, guys. And if you can stay present, you're realizing so much more in your life that's going on. That's going to make you happy. That's going to make you successful. And that's going to make you a better partner in a relationship.
You guys heard it here with Mr. Christopher Lewis, the man himself. I'll leave all of his information down below. He's got to go to his next meeting. Mr. Office of the Day, Mr. Mark Anthony. And we're going to the moon with it. You guys will see a lot more information coming by soon. He's got his book coming out. He's also got an event coming up in Dallas. It's May 23rd. Am I correct?
Memorial Day weekend, Saturday, May 23rd.
We'll leave that information down below. Thank you so much. And as always, a pleasure seeing you. And I can't wait to continue to see your growth. And I was really glad to get to connect with you again.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you, Rico, mommy. We'll talk to you soon, beautiful ladies.